Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order at 6:33. And please rise and join me in the pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let the record show all board members are present and accounted for. I just had that. Where did I put it? Oh, there it is. In closed session, we took action on item B, personnel matters, and the board voted 5-0 on that item. That was the only action taken in closed session. At this point, I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to communications. Members of the public may address the Board of Trustees regarding any special board meeting agenda item during board consideration of that item. Please note that if you wish to address the Board of Trustees on an agenda item, you should do so when that specific item is called by the board president, being me. In order to speak, or what we ask for you to do is to comment in person. Please fill out a request to be heard form and give it to the board assistant. Your name will be called during public comment on that agenda item, or will be called during that agenda item. Comments are limited to 2 minutes. If you're watching online, there's 2 different ways in which you can comment. To submit a comment via Assembly Gamut meetings, enter your name, email address, and the board assistant will provide your comment to the board. Or if you're commenting via YouTube, you can type your comment in the live chat. The superintendent or the board assistant will share your comment with the board as appropriate. With that, is there anyone who would, oh, by the way, now is the time in which you can address the board on an item that is not on the agenda. Please note that because it is not an agendized item, we cannot take action on that, but do know that we are listening and we will do our best to try and address your concerns at the appropriate time. With that, is there anyone who would like to address the board on an item that is not on tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing no comments, we're going to go ahead and move on to reports, and we're going to start with the Robla Education Foundation.
Good evening. She's making me suspicious. Anyways, a couple of things from the foundation. I picked up the Terrific 10 book orders. They had the Terrific 10 dinner yesterday. They all enjoyed it. I quizzed them and they enjoyed it, and their orders have already been submitted. Should have it back in another week. The other thing is, and I know all of you got the email today. Some of you aren't happy about it. It's time to start thinking fireworks booth. And I'm going to looking forward to having the PTC and PTO groups fill the noon to 6 slot, because we have Craig and a couple others on the 6 to closing time. We've also got another crew that hopefully is returning this year that sets up the stand in the morning. So time slot 12 to 6 is the one we're going to push for. Any questions? Hearing none. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Revin. Okay, Robla Teachers Association. CSEA. Superintendent's report.
Good evening. I'd like to wish Happy New Year. I know it's like second week of school, but this is our first board meeting, so super excited to start the 2026 school year, or 2026 year. Just a couple activities. This Tuesday, we had our ribbon cutting for our fields at Bell, Taylor, and Glenwood. I know the students and staff are super excited to have access. And I say access because we still do have temp fencing up to protect all the landscape, right? We want to make sure that the grass has an opportunity to grow and that there's no safety concerns of our students going through the grass to access the field. So we're super excited. I know the schools are providing safety trainings because I believe we heard this year one of our new health concerns are rug burns or turf burns. So we heard that from Ms. Penman, so that's something that we have to make sure that we are prepared. Access at Taylor and Glenwood is a little more challenging than Bell. Taylor has 2 access points that were built into the design. And so it's a little bit easier than Glenwood. Glenwood is actually our most challenging. There's only 1 limited access point to the field, and that's through the play structure. And that's because Glenwood has so much landscape. We expect the fence to be up for at least 3 more months to allow the grass to come in. But I'm sure that the students are working through it and having fun. I know Miss Benjamin sent me a video on Tuesday that during lunchtime, there was no students on the blacktop. They were all just sitting on the field. Whatever they were doing, they were all on the field. We had a parent information night at Glenwood on Tuesday. We started having parent information nights for our pre-K, TKK, and our DLI program, just to give families the opportunities to learn about what we offer here and, obviously to recruit and attract so they come to our district. And then on Wednesday, we repeated that presentation virtually. So I want to thank Mr. Penman, Ms. Lyon, Ms. Salceda, and all the pre-K, TK staff who put the presentations together, and our district staff who provided support, so thank you. Oh, and Dr. Drea was there. I'm sorry, I did see you on Zoom today. Oh, my. As Mr. Raven said, we did have a terrific 10. It was a very interesting group. I had 1 6th grader, and everyone else was 2nd grade and below, with the majority of TK and K. So it was interesting conversations, but they were great. They gave us feedback, or they gave Chef Sergio feedback on items that could be on the agenda with one of these, a lot of this. So it was good. And then this Friday, we have a tree planting at Main Avenue in partnership with SMUD and Senator Ashby's office. That starts at 1 p.m. And then parents, we do have minimum day on Friday with the holiday in observance of MLK holiday on Monday. Thank you.
We now move on to board member reports. We'll start with Trustee Devine.
Nothing at this time.
Trustee Cardona.
I guess last December we was pretty busy. a lot of activities going on. I had the opportunity to participate in Taylor, first time program, Alice in Wonderland in the building. It was full. It was full of joys. A lot of kids and dressed up, and it was great. It was awesome. It was our first time ever. And also I was the opportunity to go to the Christmas musical for Glenwood also too. It was also packed. A lot of people there too. But yeah, it was a good time. And thank you. That was it.
Trustee Barnes.
Nothing to report.
Trustee Hamilton Starks.
Nothing to report.
And I have nothing to report as well. So now we'll move on to recognition. Present and adopt Board Appreciation Month, resolution number 937.
Okay, so the Robla School District is proud to join more than 1,000 local educational agencies in the state in recognizing the contributions of board members during School Board Recognition Month. So please join us in recognizing our hardworking board members for their support of our students, and we will have our chiefs read the resolution.
Whereas an excellent public education system is vital to the quality of life for all California citizens and communities, and
whereas our public education system has faced unprecedented circumstances these past 5 years as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and
Whereas our local school boards acted immediately to ensure our children's academic, social, emotional, physical, and mental health needs continued to be met at a time when students needed consistent services most. And
Whereas school board members continue to advocate for to best serve the children in our community each and every day. And
Whereas local school board members are committed to children and believe that all children can be successful learners and that the best education is tailored to the individual needs of the child. And
whereas school board members work closely with parents, educational professionals, and other community members to create the healthiest environments possible where all students can thrive. And
whereas the school board members are responsible for building and maintaining the structure that provides a solid foundation for our school system. And
whereas school board members are strong advocates for public education and are responsible for communicating the needs of the school district to the public and the public's expectations to the district. And
whereas the mission of the public schools to meet the diverse educational needs of all children and to empower them to be competent, productive contributors to a democratic society and an ever-changing world is more poignant than ever before.
Therefore, be it resolved that the Robla School District hereby declares our appreciation to the members of the school board and proclaims the month of January 2026 as School Board Recognition Month. I urge all community members to join me in recognizing the dedication and hard work of our local school board members and in working with them to create an education system that meets the needs of our children.
With that, I'll entertain a motion to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Is passed and adopted by the governing board of the Robla School District on the 15th day, January 2026. Okay, we'll now move on to presentations and information. And we'll start with the school plan for student achievement update. And we'll go ahead and we will start with Glenwood.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Chuck. Hi. So, update on SIBS. Oh, you all know me, but just in case, I'm Dr. Andrea Rodriguez, the proud principal of Glenwood Elementary School. We're here to update about our SIPSA. So, focusing on the first goal was an increase in performance in ELA, so English Language Arts. Some changes. We saw a decrease in the performance for our kiddos. We declined by 5.5 points. A couple things that we're working on. So for our SIPSA this year, actually next month, we are going to officially become AVID certified as a school. And so that's going to be where over 80% of our staff are fully AVID trained and implementing strategies to ensure that our kids are college and career ready. So we submitted enough funds to make sure that our staff is able to attend the AVID training that happens. It's a summer institute. It's a 3-day, very intensive program, and it actually aligns to the district initiatives that Mr. Pemman had brought in with Marzano for the science of teaching and learning. And so that's going to help our students. We also did changes to intervention ELD's goals, which is rooted. We're doing a lot deeper dives, and I'm going to go over some of that into Amplify. So we did additional funding into an Amplify program, which helps with our centers and focuses on ELA and does very strategic plans for each individualized students based on their needs, which is all rooted in data. And we did center trainings for our PLC committee, which is a new committee within our site. And centers goes back to the small groups that happen inside the classroom based on student needs. So you have kids who are accelerated at grade level and below grade level, and teachers create small groups of those kiddos based on where they need. And then we're increasing DLI phonics. So again, our SIPSA change was that we did additional purchase of OLA books, which is a phonics program, but it's in Spanish. So in the past at Glenwood, we were utilizing a program called UFly, which was 100% phonics, but it was only in English. And then some of the funding that we used last summer was for an ATDLA. It's a two-way bilingual conference that was hosted here in Sacramento. We're taking more teachers this year, and it was very, very effective. But we met the creator of OLA Books, which takes the foundations of UFly and turns it into Spanish, because Spanish is a more phonetic language than English, and it has less letter sound. So we're just, one of the core beliefs in a DLI program is cross-languaging. And so how we're able to take those two and then really deepen the understanding of phonics for our kiddos. And then we've done an increase in data analysis. So the next slide, Chuck, please. Oh, I have a clicker. Oh, look at me, I'm fancy. Okay, so Amplify, this is what we're investing in. So this Amplify program, our sweet spot, this is rooted in the science of reading. So looking at the literacy scores, not only across the entire state, within the nation, but our main focus is here, of course, is Robla. So at Glenwood, our focus has been reading comprehension, which is rooted in phonics and vocabulary. And what Amplify does is it takes the science of reading, and we put a big chunk of money into this. And the sweet spot is 40 minutes a week for our kiddos. That is a non-negotiable minimum. And so you're seeing that we can track usage. I track this on a weekly basis to make sure every teacher is utilizing it. It also shows, it breaks it down by sub-skill mastery. And then it also gives us an individual report for each of the kiddos, and it caters to each individual child to say, here's where this kid needs some extra help and here's how to help them. And then it also gives home connect reports to families to say, here's how you can support at home. Our kiddos, and thanks to Robla, we have clever cards for our kids and they can access this at home. So the 40 minutes that is required of them to ensure that they're meeting those grade level reading standards, that's at school. They can do additional minutes. That's happening in our after school programs, and it's also happening at home.
You said clever cards?
Clever cards.
What
So
are those?
clever cards are these little QR codes that our kids can access, and that they scan it on their Chromebooks or their, like my kids have iPads at home. It sends them through like a Robla portal, and it gives them all access to all the programs that the kids get at home. I mean, that they get at school. So my kids can play, like at our site, we have the Prodigy math game. So my children don't get screen time during the week unless it's educational. So their scapegoat is to use Prodigy, which is a fun game, but it's math facts. Or we use Epic, which is another program that the district offers, which gives them an access to a library of books, which focuses on their AR levels, so for their reading levels. And then we also do Amplify. So they can log into their programs and it'll take them through the same programs. So every kid has a clever card. And we printed those individually for every single kid. And then we had teachers create stickers that go on the front of the agendas. So they have different ways to access it at home. They need a device, but we know that they're accessible via iPads. Some programs are via phone, and then, or if you have a Chromebook or any type of computer device.
We have an audience member that has a question. Is that okay?
Oh, sorry. Yes, please. Yeah. So the funny thing about Epic and so this question gets brought up a lot. Teachers will have to change their hours because it's closed off. So
Before you,
Yeah.
could you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Could you repeat the question? Because
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Folks at home probably didn't
Can't
hear
hear
it.
her.
So the question was that the ability to access Epic at home. And that's an excellent question because the program shuts off based on the hours that you put into your computer, into the program. And so what teachers can do is set it to a different time zone, and it gets kids more hours. So, but the teachers have to set it. So that's a scapegoat that we found. So we've been talking to our teachers of, if we know they're not going to use it at 6 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock, because maybe we don't use it at school until maybe after 9 a.m. by the time we do our morning mile and breakfast routines and welcome and calendar. So then if we set it and move it an hour over, then you get more time in the afternoon. Yeah. Mhm. A 100%. So it's a two-sided page
Can you
report
repeat
and,
the question?
sorry, keep forgetting. So we were talking about the Home Connect reports that come from Amplify. And the Home Connect reports from Amplify, it's an individual report. You can choose your home language. And what it does show is your student's profile, where they should be based on their grade level. So if, I don't know what month, August, September, October, November. So if I was in second grade, I should be reading at a level of 2.6. I'm in my second year of school at the 6th month of school. So all the data will be based on that literacy level and understanding. And it breaks it down by the skill sets that you should have in each of the literacy standards. And it shows where your kids land within that bandwidth. And then it'll say, so one of my boys goes to Glenwood. He's working on idioms and he's getting hung up on idioms. And so that is rooted in vocabulary and understanding how to process. So it says, hey, parents at home, here are some tools. And also here's a game you can play. And then we print it out. So progress reports are coming out because mid-tries are done. And we print those out for families along with another report that I'm going to share out. But that's something that it breaks down and it specifically tells you how to help your kiddos maybe overcome the things that are holding them up to get them to grade level. Great question. Okay. Then we are also working on STAR assessments. So these are the benchmark assessments that I'm sure you're very familiar with that we do in mid-try and try, beginning of year and end of year, that are all rooted in grade level standards. So we do, one of the conferences that we used our funding for last year was we sent a group to CABE, which is a bilingual conference. Sorry, couldn't think of the word. And one of the vendors that we met was Renaissance, and Renaissance actually does a lot of our data for us here and for our assessments. And we dove a little bit deeper into Renaissance. So our funding goes we're doing professional development and access to this information. And one of the great tools that we found was that it was able to show where kids were landing based on their grade level benchmark. But our favorite thing was comparing them. So you can't see the students' names for course because there are minors, but it says under student, it's a 3-column. One says student, and then it says STAR Lectura assessment. That means it's the reading comprehension in Spanish comparative to the STAR reading assessment, which is done in English. And so you'll see, and they rank these kids based on their home language because the DLI program is made up of half English, half Spanish. And so you might have a kiddo who's yellow in Spanish that needs intervention, but they're doing green in English. So it's showing you they're understanding some process, but here's specifically where they need additional help. So these reports dig a little bit deeper, and it provides, I already said that, and it provides insight based on the home language. And so we're doing a lot of comparatives of where our kiddos are getting hung up and where to put in more intervention. And then also with the STAR assessments, this was also breaking down, and this is another report that we do for the Home Connect. We found new ones that will tell parents where their kiddos are landing. And so blocked out our kiddos, but then it breaks down each of the domains based on literature. There's different domains, and then it shows where they are currently. This was beginning of year data, so they're walking into their new grade. And then as we continue where we teach a curriculum and state standards, this is a projectile. So in the corner, it shows where they will land by the end of the year. So a lot of our kiddos in red, you'll see are going to switch over to yellow, which is developing or near meeting their grade level standards. So as long as we're providing those interventions and supports, this now helps us focus where our additional funding goes to professional development and those intervention programs. We also had site-wide alignment. So with the Marzano strategies that are also rooted with AVID. And so this was just some examples of where the AVID training goes to. Our staff attends through our new SIPSA funding. We were able to attend more workshops through AVID. And then we are also able to align things site-wide. And it also aligns with our district initiatives with Marzano. For our second SIPSA goal, we saw an increase in performance in math. So this is where we were in 2024. We were in orange. And then this year, we dipped a bit. And so the dip, we maintained for 0.4, but it wasn't an increase. And so we wanted to see an increase. So what we're noticing is that math facts, our county collections and number sense are working. Where we're getting hung up when we dive deeper in the data is again with reading comprehension. And so the vocabulary use, which goes back into all the extra funding that we put into Amplify to help us. But with our funding, we're focusing on reading comprehension, focusing on test taking strategies. That's been our new PLC staff focus related to reading and vocabulary, meeting with individual students with goal setting. And I just attended a conference, it's the SLI conference, that we did breakouts that I brought back to my site in regards to setting goals and helping kids and parents understand what the goals mean for their assessments. And then also incentivizing student effort through the goal contracts that they create. Last year for our goal 3, we saw for the annual increase in English proficiency for all of our kiddos. This is where we were last year. And with a, oops, was that me, Chuck? Sorry. We saw that we took a very big dip in regards to our English learners. But for this year, we're happy to report we went back up to yellow. So we went up 2 levels. We had huge gains. And I need to give a lot of credit to our ELS team, Ms. Sue Karma, who really helped out and supported our staff and talked a lot about phonetic work. And we revamped the way that we were doing our ELD time for our kiddos. She's also done an amazing job with our newcomers and really focusing on how to support our students and their families. So we focused on our kiddos that were on the cups to get to the next level. And then our ELSC continued to offer training. We did optional training. We paid staff to stay after school to do training for their ELLs. And then with new reclassification parameters, more kiddos are reclassifying early. So now the new law says that we can reclassify as young as kinder, which is great. So we're going to continue to utilize Amplify for data for our bilingual alignment. Library use has been great. We actually had a parent reach out and get us funding through the Laura Bush grant, which gave us $5,000 to increase literature across our campus. And we did that in both English and Spanish. Literacy connection through incentives. So we have our reading logs with daily homework of reading 20 minutes at home. And then we have what we talked about earlier, access to Amplify and Epic at home. We have benchmark goals for our kiddos in both the EO and DLI program. We have our EL specialist training for AVID and DLI strategies with the purchase of the OLA books. And then we are also having our ELST attend conferences for trainings, both in AVID and the new ATDLE bilingual conference.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
The first comment you made, you said reclassify as early as kindergarten. You said that so fast.
Mhm.
Are you talking about Spanish learners or English learners?
Yes.
Okay, so it's no longer the 6 year? Is that how long it used to take, 6 years or?
No, they used to do for you to reclassify for your in the LPAC test. So their English language proficiency test, it used to be that they didn't start testing until it was 2nd or 3rd grade. And so they couldn't attempt to reclassify for their English proficiency. And then the law changed. So now we can start testing them in the LPAC as young as kinder.
Thank you for repeating that. You
Yeah.
were going so fast.
Oh,
I
sorry.
couldn't quite understand that.
Yeah, so then we had a lot of kinders that were able to reclassify because they are showing proficiency within the English language at that young age.
That's awesome. Thank you.
For our last SIPSA goal, support, parent support and training. So we had low parent attendance at some of our parent evenings and our PTC meetings, but we're seeing an increase. So we've been doing a lot more communication, and our PTC group is absolutely amazing, and they're really advocating for our kiddos and getting out there. Our community liaison also has been amazing in getting families inside, which she's listed down there as well. We had higher attendance. We're close to over 90% at parent conferences. Back to school night is huge, especially this year. It was amazing. We do regular communication and implementation of planners and grades 2 through 6 with folders and TK through 1. We created in our funding a 3CN. It's called the Community Cultural Connections Night, where we're bringing outside resources in. So SCOE is going to be holding our next 3CN night, and it's going to be about math strategies. And so we're just trying to find the needs of our kiddos and talking to our families. We're also starting to create videos that are sent home to families for homework assistance. And then I already talked about that. And then an increase in after school support. So we increased the amount of clubs that are utilized after school on campus that are staff run, and that is both certificated and classified staff. So we offered the opportunity to everybody and they took us up on it. Currently, we have a homework club, a writing club that just started. We're starting a language club, a video club, and then our hand sewing club, which is our most popular, run by our art teacher, Miss Janice. And so we're seeing that connection and kids are happier to be at school. And so for our SIPSA Goal 5 to improve school climate, we did decline a bit with our chronic absenteeism. So we've been focusing really, really hard on attendance. We created these large magnets. That picture doesn't do its service, but we do a weekly, if you have the best attendance, you get this huge magnet. It's on your class door, and then your class gets rewarded PBIS points. Ms. Tran came up with the NBA team, which has never been absent or tardy. And so that's hanging in our cafeteria. And then we aim for 100% weekly Gator attendance. And so we have the bullseye in the cafeteria as well, where we hang up the attendance and we have the pictures of the teachers' faces, which they absolutely love. And then the middle is 100% attendance. And so the kiddos get to see where they are and how attendance is affecting them. We also have, I don't think I put it up here, but we have attendance challenges. So we know Mondays and Fridays we get the biggest hits. And so we do spirit days on those days and kids get extra PBIS points. And our PBIS store is run by our student council and Miss Janice, our art teacher, during lunches. And that's a huge initiative for our kiddos. And so all of this is just all linked together so they understand the impact into their academics. And we're communicating that home, reminders to parents early and often about early release and what time school starts and how tardies work, and making sure that we're doing a lot more award recognition for our kiddos. We also got an increase in title funding. So we're focusing mostly on our professional development. Certification this year is going to be great, which also then will lead us into becoming, our goal is to be a showcase school where other districts can come to our site and visit for the day and see the work that we're doing. We would be one of the first DLI programs within the Sacramento County to offer this, and which we're really excited for. The funding is also going to ensure that we can send people to the ATDLE conference, a TCAP conference that focuses on arts and science, on-site trainings with Avid, and then we sent one teacher to Adobe Max to help with video education to get that club up and running. We're also getting LPAC testing support to increase reclassification before third grade. So that's LPAC training to staff. That's where extra funding went to offer to train them. Workshops by our EL specialists, and then we are implementing our LPAC questions during our ELD time. And then we purchased a math intervention program, which is also through Amplify. It's brand new. We're pioneering it. We're one of the first schools to do it. They're only offering K through 6 at this time. TK and the bilingual portion is launching next year. And then we're doing a PD around that this month. And Renaissance PD is getting rescheduled for early February to teach teachers how to dive deeper into the data. And that's it.
Questions or comments?
I would just like to say that you sound so excited about the new tools that are being introduced that you made me excited, and I'm excited to see what comes of this next year, and keep us updated. Thank you.
Thanks, Shona.
Wanted to just note a couple of things, and so far this has been pretty consistent with those who've done presentations in that your recognition of the data and then really applying specific interventions to address those concerns. And I think we see at least some examples of those interventions working. So good job with that. Also want to commend your staff on being willing to go through a lot. It sounds like you have a lot of professional development going on.
Mm-hmm.
Right now in this changing educational environment, that's something that's definitely necessary and needed, and especially if we're striving to be better. I just appreciate that our staff is willing to do that as well.
They're the best. Thank you so much. And thank you for allowing us to attend the conferences and the professional development. Thank you.
I have a question. I guess this is for Superintendent Chan. What are some key differences between GLAD and AVID?
That is something that I need to get back to you. Just to be completely transparent. I'm familiar with Avid, but I want to speak with conviction, and if someone else can. Oh, sure.
So Avid also envelops GLAD strategies. what Avid does, they just celebrated their 45th year. I actually went to a training at SCOE today with the superintendent of Avid, and David Gordon was able to speak to us there as well. And they talked about that what Avid does is it takes the guests out of the most effective teaching strategies. It's about engagement strategies and getting kids prepared. And so we are rooted in the 5 strategies, and they call it WICKER. So it's writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading. And so what they do is they take all the research that's ever been done in education and they find the most effective ways, because we could all be doing something different, but we're calling it something different. And so one thing that I wanted to bring to the site was stop having our kids having to code switch based on the teachers that they got, because the teachers might be teaching them the same thing, but they're calling it something else. And if kid isn't understanding, then you're taking too much time reteaching them the concept when it's the same thing, but you're just calling it something different. So being an Avid site focuses on really engaging kids, increasing the rigor, having them lead the learning, and then relating it all to college and career. So it's about creating goals early, as young as TK, and having them reach those goals. So we talk about your future, what that looks like, and how to achieve those goals over a long period of time. We also know that most successful people are very organized people. And so that's why Avid will also, we have a lot of color coding. The agendas are really important because kids aren't on, like, I live off of my Google Calendar. So, but that's a strategy that I had to teach myself. So teaching those things early to help them not have to figure that out on their own. So they'll be a well-equipped student as they continue their career. But long story short is Avid takes in, so like when Mr. Penman brought in Marzano, I had to like assure myself, like, it's the same thing. It's there. They call it something different. And so I created a chart that showed Marzano and Avid and how they both align already. And glad a lot of what we're doing, talking with the guru, Miss Hall, the principal at Bell, a lot of what we talk about and the ideas we share for our kids to be successful, we're doing GLAD strategies. It's under the Avid umbrella.
And I'm familiar with Avid, and I really like the intervention. I think my question or my thought is that all the schools are doing something different, and then where could there be some consistency in these intervention methodologies, because they seem to be all over the board. Sometimes some schools are doing it, I guess, better than others, and so that we're seeing students be successful in one area. So I guess my question is like, why is there inconsistency across the district in terms of those intervention strategies? That's just my thought, and there's no need to answer that question.
Okay.
It's just a thought that
I can tell you what I chose, what I chose and why I chose it, but I can't speak for other sites.
Yeah, and so again, my thought is like, are we kind of thinking about some consistency? Are the demographics of the students in each school that drastically different, and so then it calls for a different strategy? So again, there's no need to answer that question. It's just a thought that's rolling around in my head around the intervention tools that are being used. But I like Abbott, and thank you for your presentation.
Yeah. I will say that that is a point of discussion that's regularly brought up within our principal meetings and our assistant principals meeting, and when we talk at extended cabinet, just because we have, although we're a small district, we do have different walks of life, but I think the big thing that makes our sites different as well is the longevity of our staff. And so where some staff, they're predominantly GLAD trained, so they know what works and they know it's well done and it's something that's foolproof. And so if they have a new teacher maybe here or there, whereas my average longevity of a teacher right now is about 2 years. And so when I look at how long, I either have veterans or I have brand new baby teachers, I have very little in the middle. And so I try to find something that I know is tried and true and would work, but we discuss it all the time to see what's most effective, and we share those ideas with each other. I know that's why Amplify started going across other sites, because talking about and sharing these ideas, we're saying, hey, we're seeing that things are working, you might want to try it out. So it's something we do discuss.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And just
Just real quick, because the demographics of your site are very different than the other sites. So has that had an impact?
Yes. Well, and also I'm running a DLI school, which is no other site has to do. And I'm probably over 100 more kids than other sites as well. And so I think we have over 520 students now, and being TK through 6 with 2 different pathways, it's just my choice in intervention programs and things that I bring to my site is to make sure that it's meeting the needs of kids who are learning 2 different languages and can fully support that. So that's where when we look at curriculum or we look at intervention programs, that's why we bring that in. But we also see what it's rooted in. So like Amplify was a big sell for me because it's rooted in the science of reading. And science of reading has gone back for decades and is shown to make an impact in literacy moves. So through my research to see how am I going to impact literacy improvement for my entire site, it doesn't matter what language it is, where do I want to go? And so doing the research and what intervention programs there are and the effectiveness, everyone's going to try to sell you, but actually diving into the data and see what it actually does for kiddos. The usability, is it more work for my teachers? Is it like a plug, like UFly is amazing and Ola because it's a plug and play and it's foolproof, which means there are very few variables that'll go, like, doesn't matter if I'm your teacher, Ramon's your teacher, Eileen's your teacher, you're getting the same intervention because it's a plug and play that's effective. So those are all things that we take into consideration.
And just to give information, Bell is a full-on GLAD school. I know that Mr. Caff as well as Ms. Benjamin are increasing the number of teachers that are GLAD trained. Glenwood is a completely AVID school. It's Maine that doesn't have a, I would say, keystone strategy, and they are having a discussion on which, having discussion of rolling out possibly GLAD, you know. But it is important, the staff and the staff buy-in, because both of the professional development for both strategies really needs to be bought in by the teachers for it to be effective. But I will, thank you for the great explanation, but I will provide some comparison between the two.
Thank you. Next, we have Robla.
Good evening. Thank you, Robla School Board and Superintendent Chen, for letting us share with you the celebrations, kind of things that are happening at Robla. If you remember right from our data presentation, Robla Elementary School went up 6 percentage points in ELA and 2 percentage points in math. So I'm here to share with you some of the celebrations and then some of the changes and adjustments we've made. So some celebrations. We have a community schools, Magda Chavez, who was in every one of our parent conferences for our bilingual students. And we got some really amazing information from that. Our African-American ELA scores, I will talk about some details later. We are in a full step up to writing implementation from data that we learned that we had approximately 40 students that in a previous year did not complete enough writing to be graded. They did not complete enough writing to get a score. So that's the reason for our step up to writing implementation. I want to say thank you to Stephanie Coyle if she's out there. She's a rockin' assistant principal. If you don't know her, you should know her. She's improving our tier 1 and tier 2 teams. We know when there's less behavior and students get their SEL needs, our percentage points will come up. Research shows 10 percentage points. If we have a really great school climate, the whole school will go up 10 percentage points. Sam Drazen, we're a pilot school for inclusion training. That means the adults, the way they talk to students and the way they engage students. It includes all students in the classroom so they feel connected. So we're working with Sam. We appreciate that opportunity. We are in a Lexia implementation. We know that Lexia is an extremely pertinent reading intervention program that gives parents reports that, like Dr. Drea, can be used at home by the families with the QR code. So it does make parent reports, it does group students, it does all kinds of things. We're really excited. We have the Lion King play, which we'll be inviting you to. We're working on the set right now. It's another way to engage students, so students can't wait to come to school. So we have approximately 40 students that will attend and have really great attendance, which Eileen, I think, mentioned we were the attendance winners. So we're waiting for our Kona Ice. So we have a really strong and vibrant parent-teacher club. We just had a Friday night, we had Robla movie night, and it was well-attended. Students making amazing memories and connecting with other students and families, being comfortable to go there. And then lastly, another celebration, our mental health clinician, Marcy Basia, sees 25 students who have experienced trauma or have specific emotional needs. And wow, that has changed our school climate, like the students getting. So I really appreciate SCOES for that. So areas of focus going forward, and then I'll get into some more details. We are a GLAD school, thanks to Lisa Hall. This is year 29 in the district. I've been through all kinds of different teacher trainings, but GLAD, engaging students, like Marzano says, it changed Bell. It changed Bell's score, and Bell became the highest scoring school. So we have two teachers that are not trained right now in GLAD, but otherwise our school, and if you come into one of the classrooms, you will see student work and a celebration of student learning, and students are accountable for their learning. They become experts, and then they switch and they become different expert groups. So it's really exciting where students are so engaged that, and then at the end, they present their learning. Our school climate is always in need of enrichment, so we are working on that. We have a tier 1 training in PCOE right now, getting a training to improve our school climate. We, similar to Dr. Drade, if we really look in the details and look at our math scores, they're directly correlated to our reading comprehension scores. And we know that in my observations, we need to spend more time and more, have different delivery methods in vocabulary and math. So we also are looking at our ELD instruction, and we'll talk about that. Our staff development is, we're doing staff development. There's a previous employee here in this district who helped Bell Avenue do all kinds of designated supports. And if you look at these adults over here, and there's 3 that have learning disabilities, a really great school figures those out, and they teach the student how to use a designated support all year long. So if somebody over there needs or maybe there's somebody like Mr. Pittman that texts a lot, but he uses the talk to speech or talk to text. But you have students at Robla Elementary that we have to do a better job providing those designated supports for our students, that in their IEP, they have specific supports that they need to be practicing all year long. So when they take the CASP test, they can use the supports during that CASP test and show everything they know. So that's another thing we're doing. We are looking forward to collaborating with our extended learning people, because we did something this year with Alexia, with START, and Carla Beltran, where we talked and we looked at students that were nearing passing, which I'm going to show you is very exciting. We had those students after school work with Alexia, and then so not only did they get it during school time, but they got it afterwards. So, okay. Okay, well, I'm going to go through and show you, and we're going to say, Mr. Raven and I are going to say thank you to the Robla School Board, because you asked a lot of really good questions at the data meeting, and some specific to how many students were in specific groups. And Mr. Raven, thank you for your support of that, because we worked on it together. Chuck, do I need help, Chuck? Sorry, I talked too long. So you are looking at the same group of students. So these are students in 23, 24 that were 3rd graders, and these are students that are in 24, 25 or 4th graders. And if you look at the score, you will see that in every group of students that is over there at Robla, every grade level improved. These are our 4th graders that now are 5th graders. In ELA, these are our 5th graders that currently are sitting in the 6th grade classroom. This is math, and I will say that we have in third through 6th, so you have a context, we have one new teacher at Robla, and she's an experienced teacher that came from Main Avenue. So that's what we have sitting over there right now.
Is it safe to assume that the state standard nearly met, how it goes down, that those students have moved up into the standard met or standard exceeded?
So that we do not know that. That's a great question, but we do not know specifically like which student, if there was 3 students that moved up, but 2 students moved down, like we don't know that. That's a real, thank you for that. Okay, I'm gonna get into some specifics here about what we're doing. This year, with the support of Cindy Lyon, we know that we at Robla haven't done the best job of yearly moving students forward in EL. So this year, we're utilizing our PE teacher and our music teacher, and we have smaller groups for WIN. And our priority, because we know the data shows that our biggest opportunity at that school right there is our EL students. And I'm going to show you the exact number of students. But our school, if you were to come there on Monday or Tuesday, hopefully Tuesday, 9:10 to 9:40, the school shuts down. Every student and every employee the students get specifically what that student needs. So if you can imagine, if you're an EL student, you're going to a small group for EL instruction. If you're a student that needs help in reading comprehension, then you're going to a classroom for WIN. If you're a student that needs help in writing, well, then you're going someplace for writing. And then we have even more specifics to that, like Miss Bennett. I was in her classroom today. She's got practice CASP test for 3rd through 6th, how to respond to writing prompts printed out, and the students are working to that. So our school-wide focus is supporting these EL students because it is the number one area where these EL students don't feel confident. I mentioned the designated supports. We're building capacity with Ms. Croyle and Ms. Bennett. Ms. Lyon has them attending this LTEL network meetings, so we better learn how to disaggregate the data. And then a big thing that's improved at Robla is the increased communication with the parents. And we're teaching them the importance that if they don't read classify before they go to Norwood, they have to take a second English class. So they lose that chance for an elective. And the students kind of go, what? And so we're having that communication with the students and the families to a better degree.
All right, Mr. Catherwood, they do have a public comment.
Okay, thank you, sorry. Sorry. Yeah, that's a really great question. So the Robla School District does
Can
something.
you,
Okay, so she's asking about the WIN rotation. That's the 9:10 to 9:40 time where every student gets specifically what they need. So under Mr. Penman's direction, every so often, the whole entire school looks at data. And at that point, the teachers bring all of their benchmark assessments, all of their grades, and they look and see what students need. So we take a whole meeting, a staff meeting, and spread things out. And some students need to stay, but the model is 6 to 8 weeks progress monitoring. And if students are really improving, then we move them out of that group. And so some students, and it's definitely not pure. Like, we have, you could estimate that 90% of the students, when we come back, we just redid the groups. So we know that, there's 90% of the students that are in the perfect group. And there's still students that maybe are underperforming, but the teacher thinks they go to this group, we do look at all of the data every trimester to redo the groups. Does that answer the question? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. I wanted to give you one example in this. I'm sorry it's not a better copy, but this is a writing sample of a third grader. And this is why we're doing up to writing. It's a third grade EL student. And if we were to blow the left writing sample up, it's a bunch of run on. And it starts out a story about a cat named Karami. And then if you go to the other side, you'll see all kinds of punctuations, and it starts with two kids find a cat, and there's all kinds of they see a cat on a roof, and it just shows you after this specific step up to writing the difference in the writing sample. So I'm going to kind of try to have fun with you. Our African-American students in ELA, the state average for all students in California is 48.9%. Our African-American students last year in ELA were 48.28 percentage points. I don't remember that in my time. We had 44 students nearly meet the standard in ELA, like nearly pass. So we don't know if that's 2 questions, 3 questions. And I'm telling you, we're really excited at Robla because we know many of those students didn't explain themselves with the writing. We had 51 students nearly meet the standard in math. So if we can move 35 students in ELA and 27 in math, then we will be above the state average. And that to our staff sounds doable. The exciting part that you need to know is 32 of these students in ELA are EL students. 38 of those students in math are EL students. So approximately 26 to 28 of them are the same student. And so I will go into community schools and just say thank you to Superintendent Eileen for community schools, because it's making a huge impact. And I want to explain to you specifically academically how it's helping. The lady on the right, Magda Chavez, she attended every one of our parent conferences that were bilingual and translated. She was struck at the end how the families didn't understand about literature and how to help their students. And so within the day, she told me we have to do something. So that distinct need is transferred into a literature night for those families. We're going to have 30 families that are bilingual in a room with 2 teachers that have taught reading for over 40 years with Miss Magda to help them understand in collaboration with Jennifer Martinez from Sac Public Library with books in Spanish and English. And that's thanks to Ms. Chavez and the Community Schools Grant. We also, Community School Success, we did a survey already beginning of the year, needs assessment, and we got 60 families. And the 60 families wanted academic support. They want intervention. They want tutoring. They also want some kind of a sport or dance thing after school, like on a regular basis. And then they want more fun nights, like everyone talks about at Glenwood.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question. I am going to assume that the work that Travis is doing is for folks who are Spanish. Are there other intervention or other support for those EL students who are not Spanish speaking, or can I make the assumption that all of your EL students are only Spanish?
No, that's a really good question. So we have Mr. Vu that is in there for other supports, the BCOAs that have support, but she is honestly supporting all families. So it's not just Spanish speaking. And I appreciate you saying that because she was very clear that that's not why she's here. She's here to support all families and all EL families. So yeah. So I want to tell you a little celebration. Darlene McGowan is famous in this community for getting presents and gifts for families. And last year, before community schools, our staff, in support with the district, we supported approximately 50 families. And that includes myself, like a lot of teachers, Ms. Hester, Mr. Pinman, everybody would adopt a family. This year, with Magda's help and collaboration with Salvation Army, Liberty Church, and Sac Public, we provided support for over 100 families at Robla Elementary specifically. And I'm going to tell you, it was amazing. And so I want to tell you that these three ladies calling families, so you have Jana Cooper, Magda Chavez, and Evelyn Rivas, they did all this work on the phone. And so it's not Hispanic families, it's all the Robla families. And Jana knows the ones that need help. And so it was a really moving and a connecting experience for the whole staff. And so to continue with Magda, she's built all kinds of trusting relationships. We had a meeting this morning, coffee and collaborations, where we listened to families of 3 different languages through interpreters, talk about what families need and academically and SEO wise. The families now have a deeper understanding of what is happening at Robla. And with her help, I asked her within the first couple of days of working for us, we have some very social, we have a group of students that's very social and not academic. And within the first week, she was polling students at lunch and working with students academically. So she's just been exceptional. So I just want to say thank you. We really appreciate your support. We have a very experienced staff and we understand that. We have a lot to be thankful for, but we really appreciate the board asking more thorough questions about the numbers. And it led to us having a deeper understanding of what our students' needs were. Thank you.
Questions or comments? Once again, I'll just point out, phenomenal job of looking at the data, identifying where areas of concern were, and putting together interventions that helped address it. And once again, you can just see here in the numbers that it's working and you're heading in the right direction. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much. Okay, and we're not going to be doing Maine today, so we're going to move that to our next board meeting, which means that we are now going to move on to district website health and performance update.
Good evening, Robla School Board. I'm Jonathan Allen, Chief of Technology here at the school district. At our last board meeting, one of our parents over at Glenwood had some concerns regarding the quality and performance of the district's website. So having heard that, I thought, well, I better look into this. Having just started with the district, I thought this was a great way to even get to know the district a little bit more. So as we all know, we use the website to basically present information to the public, and then it's kind of a first stop for many of our parents. So going and taking a look at that from that lens, I want our parents to feel like they can stay connected, which is one of our slogans here at Robla. So first, what are some of the challenges that I discovered when doing an investigation of the website? Our parent made very, very clear that the 404 pages were quite plentiful. And there's a couple reasons those are happening. But looking at the websites, I found challenging definitely on outdated website data. There's been a lot of turnover, it seems, with the data. When you look at a particular data through the website, you can't find it. It comes up as a 404 or not found. Yet if you go onto Google, you can find it, such as the ADA page. So doing some of this work, I was able to relink the ADA page. But as I dug in deeper, I just found more and more just outdated data. As well as when you go and use Google, sometimes it won't give you it'll give you old versions of the data and not the most up to date. So that is one of the challenges we're faced with.
Just real quick, when you
yes.
say data, you mean the content that's supposed to be on the page?
Yes, the content, so it could be anything from the page itself
Mhm.
to actual files, could be outdated or missing. So one of the things that, and I'll hit on it when I talk about opportunities or next steps, but I'm starting to develop a plan around that. Website performance. So I did notice that when working with the website, we would get 404 pages just because. And then I'd wait 5 minutes, I'd try the link again, and it would come up. So I've been working with Edlio, who is our content management system platform provider. They've had some issues with performance within the last 6 months because of growth. So I'm hoping that talking to them, that we'll see an improvement in that front. As cloud services are, sometimes they oversubscribe. So they're doing some infrastructure build outs that should alleviate these random 404 errors that come up because their service is unable to present a page.
Is this a hosting issue, or is this an issue with the software, the CMS itself?
Well, it is hosted, the CMS is hosted, it's with their infrastructure itself. They've been, and I'll touch upon this now, they've been working heavily in AI around web accessibility. So last year in April, the federal government added on to Title II, ADA Title II, a mandate to all public institutions need to make their websites and mobile applications, so the applications on your phones, to be ADA compliant based on the web content accessibility guidelines through the World Wide Web Consortium. And so that was in April 2024. Some governmental agencies have to make it in April 2025, such as large school districts. And then in 2027, in 2027, smaller school districts will need to meet these web accessibility guidelines. So they've been developing AI tools to add on the data that our websites need. And this could be anything from putting transcripts in video to, or captions in video to transcripts for audio, to color contrast. It goes that deep into where they're looking at the colors and how they present on the page. And there's an actual ratio, a mathematical ratio that they're using. So they've been doing some upgrades to their system to allow the tool to be ADA compliant and to allow the people who utilize it to create websites. So that was something new that I was unaware of until I started doing this. So I'm now looking at part of a larger project, which I'll discuss in our next steps, on basically trying to update the website. So that will include what I'm doing right now is I've started an inventory, looking for bad data, looking for these links that aren't working, and then trying to figure out, okay, what do we need to do to bring it back to a state of quality?
Before you
Yes.
go on, because I want to go back, can you repeat what you said about the compliancy and the schedule?
Yes. So in April 2027, our websites need to have a level AA rating, basically, based on the Web Accessibility Guidelines 2.1. So these are guidelines that say, okay, these are things that you should be doing, such as like if I'm blind and I'm using a screen reader, there should be alternative text put in. So if if the screen reader's reading something and it hits a photo, being I'm blind, I won't see it. So it'll say, oh, this is a photo of children playing in the park or something like that. It also includes, like I said, captions for videos, the color contrast. So they're basing it on a concept of POUR, which is perceivable, operable, because you have to be able to navigate the web page just using a keyboard itself, understandable and perceivable. And this is just different accessibility technologies that they're going to integrate into the websites.
Okay, the reason why I was asking is because my day job is at UC Davis, and they're going through a compliance issue right now that has to be met this year. And when it was explained to me, I just assumed that it was a standard, date that everyone had to meet.
No, it's not. I can't speak for UC Davis, but I think it's now that it's right around now that they have to be compliant. But the federal government has guidelines for school districts with 50,000 or more students must be compliant this year. And then students with less than 50,000 students must be compliant next year in April.
You know the logic behind that?
No, I don't.
I would guess that it's because a lot of this, they're literally trying to figure it out as they go along. Universities and larger school districts probably have access to the resources and the technology to have coders figure it out. And as they figure it out, a lot of those solutions are going to make its way into the market so that, we'll be able to find it at a more inexpensive price. A lot of it's probably coming down to cost.
So long runway, hopefully. So I'm also looking at putting together a survey, which we'll probably use the website to present on asking about community use. I'm trying to pull data, figuring out what are the most used things on the website. But as we look at reimagining the website, we want to know what is it that our parents and our community wants or could value from.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yes,
Okay.
sure.
Because and I'm really glad to hear that you're thinking about how our parents are using our website. If you look further down on our agenda, you'll see that we have our SARC reports, and that has our demographic information, and especially our economic demographic information. And I know that the economics of a family determines how much they interact with things like our website. So will you also be taking into account the economic side of how our members use our families use our website, and that some people just may not interact with it because they don't have certain technology, and that we may be able to pull them in?
Well, I've found that most families have cell phones
Mhm.
and smartphones, even economically underrepresented populations have cell phones. And as part of the digital divide, they'll use cell phones rather than computers at home to browse the web or get information. So one of the things that I want to make sure is that the website is as mobile capable as possible for that reason.
And that's a great example because most people do have cell phones, and what I've noticed is that I myself may have a more up-to-date cell phone because I like to do, lots of fun things. But not everyone has a cell phone that can do everything all the time, and that's based on economics as well. So will you be taking into account things like, what, not like the highest level or the whatever Apple 20 something.
No, but on Android or cost-effective solutions.
Yes.
Yes, that would be part of a testing process that we would do. I've done this previously in a past life where we'll take different types of cell phones and we'll run the website through it to see how it's working. And we'll do something like a incredibly inexpensive smartphone, which is low CPU or low chip speeds and low memory to see how it acts, up to, of course, kind of a middle of the road up to, and then your most luxurious large iPhone, like 17. but that really kind of gives us a idea of how the performance is going to look like across that whole population.
One of the things that I know the data is already probably are likely already there. We can see like literally the platform that they're using. We can see whether they're using Android or Apple, whether they're accessing it via tablet, desktop, or iPhone, or via their phone, and it'll give us an opportunity. And we can kind of look for, okay, well, what's going to be the best fit. And I like what you're talking about, actually testing it, because one of the things in some of the work that I've done is sometimes if you don't test it and actually take a look at what does it look like on various different systems, you may think it works. You may think it'll look nice, but in the end, it can be quite challenging.
But this will be tied up into the web accessibility piece of it to see how that plays out with the platform that we use and mobile.
Oh, yeah, I do appreciate that because you know, I do remember times like when we went into COVID, we actually weren't even at one-to-one technology for our families, you know. So and we had to bump that up because we knew that our families weren't there. So that's why I ask about things like the economics of it, to make sure that everything is accessible and we're not assuming that they have the iPhone,
The latest and greatest.
whatever. So thank you.
And so that talking about that's we're taking a look at updating the website architecture to make it a little more streamlined potentially, and then update the content for relevancy. As you said, outdated content, not very relevant. So we want to make sure we have the latest relevant data there for our families. Then you've already kind of asked some questions, but if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
One of the things, I know you talked about surveying parents and students, but I would also consider you, in particular, look at the staff that might and how the staff utilizes the website, both those who use it for, you know, viewing content, but also those who are actually putting the content on there, making sure that we have something that makes it so that if we have something that needs to go out district-wide, it can be posted to all of the websites relatively easily district-wide. And then also that it's fairly easy to use for those at each site, because not everybody's a webmaster.
Oh, yes.
But we want to make sure that we make it as simple as possible for folks to be able to update the individual sites, the individual school sites, so that we have that information. Sometimes if it's a little too complicated, folks will tend to delay the updates.
Well, I try to come from a keep it simple methodology, because I always find that you'll have the greatest level of success if you keep something simple, but you're still meeting the goal and the principles that follow. But that's where I am right now, is starting to really think about this. Just through the research process, you know, I discovered a lot of information. Now it's taking a look and saying, okay, over this next year, how do we apply it? How do we, you know, maximize our efforts and make it an experience that people come back to? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now move on to the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Action items, discussion and approve governing board compensation adjustments, AB 1390.
Can I give a little bit of,
Yes.
just a reminder? So, and I'm going to talk about the next two items in conjunction, just to give a little bit of history. So prior to AB 1390, existing law authorizes members of city and county boards of education or governing boards of school districts to receive compensation not to exceed a specific amount between $60 and $1,500 per month based on average daily attendance, ADA. AB 1390 was passed to allow the compensation range to be revised to be between the amount of $600 and $4,500 per month based on ADA. So a school district that has ADA of less than 10,000, but more than 1,000, which is where Robla School District falls in, will allow governing boards to receive compensation not to exceed $1,200 per month or in any month, right? And the next item of B discusses education code that affords local school boards to increase their monthly stipend by 5% from the previous year. So just to give a little history, in 1999, excuse me, the school board members' monthly stipend was $240. There was a pause in the increase. While Ed Code allows an increase of every year, there was a pause in the increase of 5% change from 2006 to 2019. Then again in 2021 and 2022, right? So the current stipend, as noted in item B, is $355.87. So in 1999, the stipend was $240, and in the year 2025, it is $355.87. So due to the pauses in those two big blocks, this is where a discussion and/or approval or other action can be taken.
Well, I guess first question is, what would our compensation, and by the way, when you talk about the pauses, that was Robla specifically, so not every school district took a pause.
That is correct.
And at what level would we be if compensation, if the 5% were taken every year as, if we were taken every year without any pauses?
Yes, I have that right here. If there was no interruption, let me just make sure I'm, okay. If there was no interruption, the 2025 base amount would have been $853.36. And then a 5% increase would be $896.03.
Any other questions, comments?
Well, a couple comments. Well, first, I move that we actually do not vote on this tonight because I do want to hear from our audience and from our community before making a decision.
If I might make a point of order, if you make a motion and someone seconds it, and then we discuss that, and then we vote on it, then we can no longer discuss the item. So I'd like to be able to discuss the item. I'm not opposed to your motion. I'm just saying that then after we have our discussion, then let's go with the motion.
I appreciate how good you are with our rules. Yes, I'm on board.
Should we hear from the CFO on this, about how our budget is doing?
And public
Go ahead.
comment, yeah.
The comments and.
Public comment, yeah.
Yeah, yes, please.
Okay.
At the last meeting, I asked, like, how are we paying for this and what could those funds otherwise be used for? And in particular, I want to know how the district can afford this, but couldn't afford to cover all of the turkeys for the Thanksgiving giveaway. Like, the district had to ask the Robla Education Foundation for $500 to cover the turkey. So, like, does that mean if we have the money to pay for a board increase that we wouldn't need to ask for a donation to cover all of those kind of items in the future?
So our district budget is,
Can you answer her question?
Yes, let me address let me make a comment regarding the turkey giveaways, right? Last school year, all of the turkeys were donated by our food bank. This year, with the concerns regarding, it's not SNAP. Not just the budget shutdown, but it's not the budget shutdown. It's the oh my gosh, I apologize. The guidance for who would be qualified for like free and reduced lunch and other programs. Correct that the budget was going to impact federal funding regarding child nutrition, right? So we do have a new director, and what she had originally secured, I believe, 150 turkeys, right? Not knowing that last year we received 300 turkeys, right? So I had tasked her to reach out and see how we can match the number of turkeys that we had last year, right? So we are very thankful from the donation from the, Robla Education Foundation, but if we did not receive that, we would have looked at additional funding to ensure that we would have provided the 300 turkeys, right? And that probably, and Mr. Martin could confirm, would have come from the child nutrition grant or child nutrition fund, right? With the money that was donated, it just allows the child nutrition department to use that at another time.
You're absolutely correct. If we did end up using district funds to purchase the turkeys, they would have come, or they should have come from the child nutrition fund, because if they came out of the general fund, I could see that becoming a gift of public funds issue. And so had the district been had made the decision to purchase the turkeys, it would have come out of the child nutrition fund, as the superintendent.
I'm going to assume that the bigger question is where's the money coming from and if those funds can be used.
Well, I would answer, well, I don't know if this answers your question, but I
Can you
would
also,
say.
can you also repeat what, basically, what you said before?
Sure. The question was, could this, and correct me if I'm wrong, could this money be used for other purposes other than the board increase, stipend increase? And I would say a couple things to keep in mind. We are talking about 5 people. So in the greater scheme of things, it's not, well, I don't know, on the amount of the increase, it's not a huge sum of money. Could it be used for other things? There are always things that the money could be used for. Where would it come from? It would come from the general fund. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Last we're talking it and we're my concern is
Just put it in the microphone.
Yeah,
She
can you
hear
give her the
it.
mic?
Yes, you can hear it.
my concern is that at the last meeting when we were talking about the budget and review, he mentioned that the special education often eats into the general fund. And while this is a small amount, there was an increase last year, and I understand it is a small amount, but at the same time, like, little things add up over the years and things like that. And so my concern is just making sure that we are going to have enough money for all the things that we don't plan for, right? And just it's hard when we hear our teachers asking for $200 to $300, right, to buy additional chairs for their classrooms and things like that, or special chairs. And it's, they're doing those donor choose programs and things like that. And so it's really hard as a parent to see our teachers struggling and feeling like they need to ask us to buy things for their classrooms. And yet it just doesn't feel like it's necessary when we are supplying a lot of money out of our own pockets to support our students in the classrooms, either through additional snacks or by donating to these fundraiser programs, donating to our school fundraisers and things like that. It's really hard to support this when we are already paying so much out of pocket for other things. That's why I'm like, where could this money go? Could you buy these things for our teachers, even if it's not every single teacher, right? Could one teacher, 2 teachers, it makes a difference to those 25, 30 students for those little things that they're doing, whether it's, again, like our teacher, for my daughter's teacher, they wanted these little bouncy chairs that they could sit on because they're 2nd graders and they're kind of squiggly. And, she had to raise like $400 because donor choose adds like 30% in fees that she had to cover. And it'd be nice if she didn't have to do that, and she could apply for some kind of internal grant or funding instead. So I'm just wondering, as a parent, why am I paying for this when, I wish the teachers didn't have to.
I'd like to comment on that. Absolutely understand and how you're feeling when there are requests that comes home for things to be purchased from the parent. I think one of the things that I need to do as a superintendent is meet with my principals. That's why we have school plan for student achievement. It really does outline how much the schools get for, I'm going to say, discretionary funds that are allowable. The example you use are the wobbly chairs. That's probably for what do we call it? Flexible seating, right? Which is absolutely allowable as an expense to use for their site funds. I'm not certain, I've only been in the district for 3 years, so I'm not certain the protocol of when a teacher wants something that's on top of what I call the base, right? So for example, if we had a writing project and the writing project uses pens that are red, green, and blue, right? To me, that is the base because that is what the writing program requires. But if a teacher wanted purple pens, right, that to me is on top of the base. So that might be an example of what they might request for a parent to purchase. So, or, maybe, donors choose. It's a challenge for me when teachers go on to donors choose when I haven't heard at my level that I requested flexible seating and we denied it, right? So I absolutely understand. Now, when it comes to the snacks, that might be a little bit tricky because they may not want to comply with our nutrition services guidelines and might want to sneak that little thing in that's not allowable. I could see that possibly happening for a celebration that might happen after school. But, we provide an opportunity for students to have 3 meals, almost 3 meals a day. Everyone receives breakfast, lunch, and if you are in our after-school program, you receive supper. Right. And so we do have funding that provides for all that. So I do hear you when if teachers are feeling they need to go outside, that's a process that I need to explore to see, are these requests coming through the proper channels to see where we can use our funding, more efficiently or effectively.
I appreciate you saying that because I can't think of a single year where we have not asked all of our administrators and our teachers what they need and to inform us about what they need, and we have not tried to meet those needs. We have always tried to accommodate those needs. So I do appreciate you giving that statement.
We don't spend a lot of time here talking about what goes into being a board member, the amount of time that it takes. There's the time that we spend in the meetings, and those are the times that publicly you see, and those are the times that's the time that is actually recognized through law in terms of how often you wind up meeting. And even then, it's just the number of meetings, it's not how long those meetings go. We're pretty blessed here in that we don't have long, contentious meetings, and I'm very grateful to my fellow board members for that. But what you don't see is what goes on outside of the meetings, the amount of preparation that goes into, the number of reports, the time, the number of meetings that take place, both with parents, with staff members, with the superintendent, and with our fellow board members that take place outside of this. I get that none of us are doing this because we're planning on making a living as a school board member. None of us are doing this to be rich. The challenge is we live in an economically challenged community, and there are people who I think would be really, really good to serve on this board that can't do so because they can't afford to give up the time. And the compensation for it doesn't even come close to meeting what it would need for them to, what I like to say, buy back their time so that they can serve. So thus it becomes cost prohibitive. And I realize I don't think we're going to make a decision that's going to make a huge change in that, but if we can get it towards something that makes it easier for people to be able to, as I said, buy back their time. I think that's something that we need to, at the very least, consider, and we need to consider how our community and how our constituencies are groups feel about that. So I hear exactly what you're saying, and I appreciate what you're saying. And I think that is something that's definitely we need to consider whatever we decide to do. But I also know that we need to consider something. At the very least, we need to have the conversation. And that's the reason why we wanted to do this, was so that we wanted to have an opportunity for all of our, whether it's our collective bargaining groups, whether it's our parents, whether it's community members or staff, as well as board members to voice their perspective. Trust me, you have no idea how hard it is to sit here and consider, well, should we do this or not? It is very hard because we also know the challenges that many people are facing. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't at least have the conversation.
I think a better conversation, if you really want feedback, again, send out a survey. Like, I went to almost every event that was happening this week. I went to the Glenwood preschool DLI presentation, and I went to the parent feedback night last night. And I'll say there wasn't childcare at either one of them, and there were kids running around. Not many kids, but there were kids, and it was hard for the parents to focus. It would have been nice to have childcare at either one of those. It'd be nice to have childcare tonight at these board meetings. Like, if that's something, there's so many parents who I know want to be here tonight, but the time is hard. It's our kids' bedtimes, it's dinner times. But also, even if aside from all of that, we can't always bring them, right? Like, if we did want to bring them, if we did want to keep them up late, they're not going to sit here and be quiet. We've had a couple kids join us and they were super excellent, but like, my kiddos could not do what those kiddos did. And I luckily have a partner that stays home with them and lets me be here, but not everyone has that. Like, if you want to really serve us, like, I would spend a couple weeks, telling the principals to message their families through Parent Square, do a survey. I think the parent feedback survey did a lot better recently than the one last year. And so parents are trying to get more involved through Parent Square. I think if you really want to hear us, putting it on an agenda, on a board meeting, not everyone's checking these and knowing what's up and can provide feedback or can think about it. I think, the more you can try and give us a couple weeks to think about it and submit that feedback really helps. Putting up QR codes when we're picking up our kids at the after school programs. Let me scan it real quick and fill out that survey. Super easy. A lot of times QR codes get sent out via Parent Square, but I'm reading Parent Square on my phone and I can't like QR code my phone or have to, it's a thing. Put a link in there. There's a lot of ways I think the district is getting better at trying to solicit feedback. And I think we're getting better as parents at like responding. And so I think if you really, really do want our feedback, I would try to do more than just talk about it at a board meeting. That's not the most equitable place for us to provide feedback.
I very much appreciate that. And I think that was kind of the sentiment behind tabling the motion and putting it off to another week, to another board meeting, to give us an opportunity to outreach and let folks know and solicit opinions before we make a decision.
Yes, and also I do want to make sure that you and everyone out there is welcome, knows that they are welcome to give comments to us anytime about anything. So if you believe that there is that we should be providing something like childcare at a certain event and we are not, that's information that can be shared with an administrator, and we'll take that into consideration because that's how we find out about a lot of different things. And we do actually try to provide childcare for a lot of our events. So if it hasn't happened, let someone know about that, and we'll definitely do our best to make those accommodations. As Trustee Zulu said, these discussions are very difficult because no one wants to sit up here and talk about giving ourselves a raise. But I'm a firm believer that any job has to be worth has to have a certain amount of value to it. And as Trustee Duluth discussed, there is a cost to doing these positions, and we're not doing this to get rich, but there are other costs that do need to be taken into consideration, and some of it is just the actual cost that this does interfere with our professional lives to be able to do some of these things. And I don't want to get into all the details. I'll just say that as Trustee Dilla said, So sorry, this really is a difficult conversation to have when you're talking about giving yourself a raise. It's just that there has to be a certain value to serving on a board like this. Geez, lost my train of thought. I'll give people a thing.
I think one of the things that I just want to mention is that I hope that our parents and our teachers and our families know that if we weren't concerned about funding and if we weren't concerned about budget and if, we were only concerned about ourselves, we'd have been like, sign me up for that paycheck. But I think that we have had, I think that we've spent a lot of time really trying to be thoughtful about making sure that we are showing up for our constituents in a thoughtful manner. And so I hope that's coming across very clearly, that we are very concerned and that we want to make sure that we're being fair and equitable to our constituents, to our teachers, to our parents, and to our families, to our community members, but also to ourselves. And that, we are not taking this lightly. And I think, like our CBO said, like, it's not in the grand scheme that much money, but when you're looking at equity, when you're looking at fairness, when you're looking at decisions that we've made previously and decisions that we're going to have to make in the future, that we are being super thoughtful and that we don't want to make it seem as if we are trying to reward ourselves more than we're trying to reward the people who are actually doing the work. So I sincerely hope that that is coming across.
Yes, and that's the thought that I was trying to get back to. We do put a lot of effort into that, and during our last board meeting, we mentioned the fact that we have gone through 3 normalizations of wages to make sure that all of our employees are paid a competitive wage. And those are things that we brought up. Those are things that we wanted to make sure that all of our employees had competitive salaries. And when we found out that they didn't, we actually implemented all of those changes. And I really appreciate the fact that, 1, we did that, but 2, we didn't take into account anything like, board wages. We couldn't at the time because there was no consideration for it, but we didn't even, it wasn't even a thought of, should we also try to normalize the board? But we did normalize that for our staff multiple times, and we have always tried to make sure that our employees were being paid a worthy salary. And I do think that we get one chance to make a correction for board members, and this is something that we do have to take advantage of, at least consider.
So, I mean, what I'd like to do is just, once again, we're not, obviously we're gonna table this because we're gonna, and I liked your idea of putting out some surveys, putting out information, giving actively reaching out to the community to find out their thoughts. My thinking in this is that there are 4 options, but really only 3 of them are even possibilities. Only 1 or 2 of them do I actually like. I mean, the broadest possibility is move it out to the maximum. Right? I don't think that's a possibility in my eyes, in my opinion. Once again, even considering the fact that when we looked at what other boards in the area are doing, those that are of commensurate size and have the commensurate number of board meetings or required meetings, we're at the low end. Something closer to the median, something closer to competitive would probably be something in the $500 to $600 range. If we had done the 5% every year, we said it would be $896. Yeah.
896.03.
So I'm just going to say that while I believe that if we had done that, while I believe that that would be fair and reasonable, to me, that's a little bit too much of an increase. That just once for me. But I think as we're considering it and we're putting it out there, that's an option. The other is going with something that's more median, which would be somewhere around the $500 to $600 range, which puts us right about the center of where boards are, keeping in mind that there are a lot of boards who are going to be making decisions that are going to be increasing their compensation. And once they do, we're likely going to wind up back near the bottom, but that's okay. The other is sticking with the 5%. Once again, we're not putting anything in stone. We're not committing to anything. I'm just saying those are the options that I am thinking. Once again, the going to the full boat is not it's an option on paper, but in my mind, it's not really an option.
Can I ask you a question? When we're communicating with our families and our parents, do you think that putting a dollar amount, putting percentage amount, adding the language from the AB 1390, what do you think would be most effective in getting good feedback back?
Mhm.
I think all of it. I think all of it put into context really helps. I would also add, you know, how much the staff have gotten and the teachers have gotten their pay increases as well. I think a lot of people want to make sure that our teachers are at least receiving the same kind of pay increase as well. I think it also would be helpful for the boards to come visit the schools in the time right now while you're asking this. Some of our parents haven't met you, you know, there are PTC meetings happening almost every week around the district. I know ours is having one on Tuesday. If you guys want to come meet us and get our feedback in person, you're more than welcome to come do that. Come meet the kids, you know, who you serve and things like that. I think that really helps. I also think it would be really great to keep in mind that it is an election year. And so if this is not really something that's serving you and if it's not feeling equitable, like, you know, there is always an option for other people to fill these spaces as well, because we are going to have that this year. Thanks.
There's always an opportunity
Yes.
for people to run. Like, I want to put that out there
Right.
too. Like, my butt is not like cemented to this seat. And I think that that's why we do have elections and that's why we do run. That's why we do want more voices. That's why we do want to hear from more people. So I want to put that out there that I'm not glued to this seat. And I know that it's open for anyone who is interested in serving our community.
Yes, it is. Most
I would
definitely.
also like to point out, sorry. I would also like to not point out, but just say that Robla School District would actually benefit from people running for the board seats. So I know when I ran, there hadn't been anybody who had challenged a sitting board member in how long?
Quite a few years. Actually,
Yeah.
I think over the last probably 18 to 20 years, there have only been maybe 2 elections.
Yeah, so a lot of the times there aren't people even running against us, so there isn't an election. We would love for our community to get more involved
Yes.
with our board, with the school district. We welcome people to run against us, to take my position, to take any one of ours. The district would just probably benefit from that. And if a small pay raise gets more people to be able to take the time out of their busy lives to be able to do this, it would only benefit the district.
And that's my point. Like, I think if you can put that out there and let people know, like, because I know just as a parent, like I said, I can only be here because my husband stays at home with our kids, but like a babysitter is like $30 an hour, right? And if you have meetings and things like that, that's really hard to afford for somebody. So I think, like I said, the more information you can provide is probably better. I don't think you can provide too little information if you really want parents to make an informed decision about how they would feel. And again, like I said, if you want more people, more parents to be involved, I'd include that in your call. Let them know that this is what you're considering when you're making that, because you might put that into somebody's mind who's out there, who's watching at home. If you guys really mean that, I think that's something really great to put in there and put that as your intent when you're asking this feedback and letting us know why we would be supporting you or what you're going to do with our feedback.
Okay.
And we do really mean it. We do really mean what they
We
say. What we
absolutely
say.
do.
And so I really hope that that is coming across very clearly. I don't want there to be any misinformation that we are not genuinely interested in hearing from the people that we serve, because we definitely are. Like, we hear you, right? We are listening to you. Like, I hope that you see that when you come to these meetings and you give us feedback, that we are actually taking actions on those things and we are being mindful about it, because what you say is important to us. That's the reason why we're here. And so I sincerely hope that that is coming across, that we really do care and we really are mindful of the people that we're serving.
Yes, and this district is a very unique district. It's a wonderful district to be in, but it's also one of the few districts that is actually small enough that um, I'm one of the few board members that actually has gone through an election. And it's one of the few districts where you can actually get out and walk the entire district and meet people and really learn what they're interested in and sometimes what they're not, and meet the people. So it is a wonderful district. And if there is anyone out there that is interested in actually learning more about the board, we're all very friendly people here. We love, you may have noticed that, and sorry to get off the topic a little bit, but I want to take the opportunity. You may have noticed that we don't run the board meetings the way most boards do. We do interact a lot more with the audience, and which takes a little bit of finesse because these meetings are strictly governed, as Trustee Dulles reminded me a few minutes ago about my motion. But we do try to incorporate the community into these meetings as much as possible, which is why even if someone hasn't filled out a card or anything like that, we're like, give us your input. So we really do care about the community and want to hear. So thank you very much for speaking up.
I just want to say something too. I'm in the board for 11 years, and I never run for a place. Every time when I sign, nobody signed. Nobody want to take the time. Nobody had the time. Nobody had nothing, and it's been like that for almost 4 elections already, and that's the reason I keep coming back, because there's nobody here, and I like what I do, and I want to help people. I want to be involved with schools, and I do what I could to help my school and the district. It bothered me when the school needs something and they say, oh, we need donations. And I think part of the problem is that people don't communicate. And that is the problem. If you need something, you have to approach to the right person and they say, hey, I need a new pair of shoes, or this kid needs a new backpack. We have resources, we have the way they do it. And they say, and I hate to see when people are like, oh, because the school is tight, or because the board is tight, because we don't want to help nobody. No, if we don't know how we can help. So a lot of the thing is a lot of communications. So I like to see the parents, all the schools, all the PT, they approach the board. Email the, hey, we need something, we need a new book, new crown, whatever, because we have the resources for it. I'm not here for money, but all the board members in the whole United States get paid for what they do. I wasn't planning to. I didn't even think I was going to get paid for it. But it's equality. We didn't take a raise for years. We're in the lowers. And you go, is it fair that everybody else making a lot and we're making this little? This money is allocated for this use. It's a money for books, it's money for nutrition, it's a money for everything. Everything has its own place. So the allocation is there. And so we only try to be fair. We not come over here to say, hey, we want $1 million or $1,500 or nothing. This is the reason we are talking to you guys, to let you guys know that, hey, what's the best things to do? I will never take the bread for my students. I will never take something for something the school needs. And that's one of the things I want to clarify. But we need to be fair. This is a job. This is what we do. And we do it the best that we can and with our heart, because we're not doing it for money. And I just want to say that.
So can you repeat the options that you mentioned earlier?
So in terms of, like, I think real options for consideration in general, one is raising it to the level it would be if we had done the 5% every year, and I think that was 896. The other is something that's a little bit more, and perhaps we can do a little bit better calculation to figure out what's kind of the mean or the median with these, but I think it's going to be somewhere in the $500 to $600 range. And the third would be going with just the 5% increase that we as current. So I don't know what that would increase it to, but those would be the 3 options, I would say.
Okay. And I do like the option of survey. I am a little concerned about how much to include because
Yeah.
I wanted to get actually considered.
Mhm.
So it's kind of difficult to figure out.
I just really wanted to put those out there as, kind of see if, at least amongst us, if those are the areas of consideration. Just, I mean, for me, that's what I'm thinking. You guys may be thinking something completely different. I just want the public to have an idea of what we're thinking. So I don't want people thinking, oh, well, they're going for the $1,200 and, at least for me, I just wanted to kind of put that where it is. I'm more leaning towards either the 5% or or like I said, getting us somewhere near the median, which is closer to $500 to $600.
Oh, did you want to say something?
Yeah.
If you went with 5%.
Mhm. And I'm more interested in what is an actual decent amount for the work that we do here. But how do we actually convey that? Because as you mentioned, it's not just the board meetings; it's the prep for the meetings. I mean, we have 17 meetings on the calendar, plus all the unexpected ones. And that part is just kind of hard to convey. So I'm more interested in trying to figure out an amount that that equates to what we actually do. I think that they are in the same ballpark.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why I like those options. I think that will put us in a range of something that's worth the amount of work that goes into it.
Is there any sort of like survey or anything that's ever been done to see, okay, the amount of time that board members put in other words, between meetings, between meeting prep, between events that they attend, between conferences that they attend? Is there anything out there like that that you might know of? No?
I'm not aware of any, but we
Okay.
can always reach out and see.
I'm just
if
trying to get
there's
an
something
idea
there.
of, so if we're looking at if we're looking at a dollar amount, what's the hour
rate?
What's the hourly? Yeah, exactly. What's the hourly rate? Not, I mean, once again, not that this is
Well,
like
how many
a,
hours
If you
in,
take
what's the
$500
range?
divided in 17 meetings, we're making $29 per meeting.
Right.
That literally.
well, that's because that's
No, that's
You
per
get to
month.
$500.
well, that's anyway. I'm talking about if you're doing it more of an hourly rate. So in other words, how much?
357, we get $20
But that's
per meeting, just the meeting.
But the five.
But that's 17
That's per month, not
Yeah.
per
per year.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I think it is, complicated. Every time we talk about money, like it's always one of those things that's like really tough.
It's hard to talk about this.
What does my mom used to say? She's like, if you want to know what someone values, look at where they spend their money. And I just think that's very true. But I appreciate the conversation, and I'm looking forward to hearing what our parents in our community, what their feedback is.
I 100% agree. Yes. Okay.
And we do look at where we spend the money because we actually have to do that in our meetings.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any other comments from the public or comments from board members?
Comments online?
Any comments online?
Yeah.
Now I'll probably go ahead and I'll entertain that motion to table.
Okay. I motion to table this and our next. I can combine
Yes.
them, right? So I motion to table items 8A and B. Table the vote on items 8A and B
They table them. Are you going to do them indefinitely or to our next board meeting?
until our at least until our next board meeting.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second?
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much for participating in that discussion. I know it's not an easy discussion to have. Okay, now we'll move on to item C. Approve 2025-26 expanded learning summer contract, Roberts Family Development Center.
So moved.
Second?
Been moved and seconded.
Good evening, everyone. Alexios Vakis, District Coordinator of Expanded Learning here. The 2025-26 Expand Learning Summer Contract with the Roberts Family Development Center supports approximately 100 students during the summer break. This program provides enhanced academic support and enrichment designed to promote continued learning during the summer months.
Questions or discussion?
I guess I have a question about like C, D, and E. That is nearly what, like 600 or something students. Are we gonna have 600 and something students in our summer programs? Is that?
So, and I'm going to interrupt. Let me clarify. C and D are for our summer program, right? And so that's about 300 total.
Okay.
And then E is actually an addendum to the current school year ELOP program, and he'll explain due to increase enrollment.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to say. Oh, okay.
Two, but go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to say, my granddaughter Jane actually participated with the Roberts Family Development Center summer program, and so I had a chance to experience it. Normally, my experience with the summer program is I show up, I do the read, I'm a reading partner, I strut my thing at the end of it, and and that's usually it. But this time I got a chance to participate. Actually had a chance to supervise at a couple of field trips and participate and work with. And I got to say, one of the things I like that's different about their program is because they're using young adults, because they're using college students, there is a connection that the kids have to them that they sometimes don't have to some of them, or even some of our teachers, right? Some of our staff. They're very energetic. They really, really do demonstrate a care for the kids. And comparing the ones that are here to the ones that are even are in other ones within other that are other adults that are working with other freedom schools. The ones that are working here are really something. They're really special, and they're really putting a lot into our kids. So I am very, very happy to support this. Anyway, with that, any additional discussion? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so our first public comment, Ms. Oliver said the following: I am requesting tabling of this item. When RFDC was provided a contract in August, despite not being a recommended vendor by the district committee that reviewed the proposals, no explanation was provided on why they were given an exemption. They were being reconsidered, or why they were being reconsidered. Was this afforded to the other programs? This program seems to be receiving special consideration above other programs since they were given additional ELP funding. They were listed on the ELP sign-up sheet prior to contracts was approved at a board meeting, and now they're considered again for summer school contract. Were other programs not listed on this agenda asked to provide summer school programs? I'm requesting this item to be tabled for additional information to be provided to parents for consideration in advance of approving a contract, not only about RFDC, but about how it was considered and who would receive summer school contracts. The second comment by Mr. Frost is I'd like to make a comment about item C and D, this one and the next item. As a parent, I'm excited that we will be having summer program offered this year. However, it's highly disappointing that parents were not allowed to have any say-so in what service providers would be offering these programs over the summer and throughout the school year. Because parents were not invited to be involved in this process, I can only go by what I see. What it looks like is that switching from 1 to 2 providers, parentheses start in RFDC, to 3 to 5 providers, enrichment offerings for our children have greatly decreased. This is a huge detriment to our children with lifelong consequences. The neuroscience is very clear on the benefits of enrichment activities from children. Science shows that when children are exposed to different types of activities and experiences, the brain creates pathways that can build on later in life. Even with a minimal amount of exposure, a sympathetic spark is created. Without these pathways, there's nothing to build and develop in the future. Not giving parents a voice in what programs are provided and who are providing them robs our children from a lifetime of brain development. I request that prior to this vote, parents are allowed to review, evaluate, and make recommendations about what expanded learning programs are offered to our children. Please table the vote until feedback from last night's feedback night is reviewed and taken into consideration. Our voices and opinions should be framing our children's expanded learning. We should be working in concert with the board and the district. Thank you. End of public comment.
I just want to add that the parent information meeting yesterday that was held by Mr. Bacchus was to get feedback for the RFP that we will issue for the 26-27 school year. Right. And so if you recall last year, the board approved vendors for ELOP during the year and during the summer. So these two providers were approved vendors from the spring. Just wanted to provide clarity. And so I don't want to mix up the information night or how we're trying to gather information to approve the RFP for the 26-27 school year. And the 26-27 school year starts in August. So I'm not certain if there's any, there might be some confusion because it's summer 2026. Summer 2026 is actually still part of the 25-26 school year.
To the parents, it all is connected. Like there is a new vendor being considered for the summer that has not been in our district very long. And that is one of the concerns, and that's what we are talking about at the feedback night last night. While it is for next year and for that proposal process, it's confusing why a vendor that has not been here very long and the district doesn't have any feedback from the parents, why that vendor would be selected to move forward compared to vendors that they've had in the past. We're just like, why is Right at School selected for the majority of the students? And again, Roberts Family Development Center was not in one of the 6 that was originally approved by the committee. They got their contract in August. It's in the agenda, it's in the minutes. They were not in that original 6. And again, like I said in my comment, they were put on the sign-up sheet before the contract was approved. And that's, again, with this whole taking our feedback into consideration. We've been asking for transparency. We've been asking to give feedback, for our feedback to be considered. I spoke to a lot of parents who, when we saw the agenda for tonight, felt like we got punched in the gut that these were the summer school providers and that this is how summer school was going to play out. And that's why we're asking this to be tabled. We want to provide feedback about how the new vendors are going on our current campuses if they're going to be considered for summer school. We want to know why these ones were selected in general, like why these two, when there is now so many more options, and why are we varying from what's worked in the past? Like, did something really not happen that START can't continue to do summer school? Like, if there's going to be exceptions made with the ELOP funds for one program, why are exceptions not being made for other programs? That's the gist.
So let me provide clarity. What was approved, the vendors were the top 6, as well as existing 24-25 vendors. So that includes, you mentioned Right at School is a new vendor that was a top 6. START and Roberts Family Development Center were part of the current 24-25 vendors. We also have Stay After School, who is actually the 3rd item, that is a new vendor. So all these 4 vendors were approved May meeting, right? And their contracts were awarded in the August meeting for the school year, and that included the intercession, which Right at School is running. Part of the decision was based on proposal as well as cost. Your question specifically for START, to be transparent, when START submitted their proposal was strictly for the ACES grant. The funding for our summer program comes from ELOP. So their proposal was strictly to provide support for 180 school days. And they also had an exception because we approved 2 years for them to provide ACES programming for the 25-26 school year, as well as the 26-27 school year, right? And that's the only provider that has a 2-year contract. Mr. Vakis is hoping to accomplish what the concerns were last year and to get feedback so we can improve the RFP process to get to be more informed, get more parent feedback as well as staff feedback. So when the RFP is issued for just the 26-27 school year, right, we will have some good lessons learned and issue a different RFP for the 26-27 school year. And then following the 26-27 school year, we will do another RFP because that will allow a company like START, right, to be able to apply for something other than ACES starting the 27-28 school year. So I just want to be clear that the 4 providers that were providing programming this school year were board approved. They were either an existing provider for the 24-25 school year or one of the 6. And that is when the item was amended to approve the 6 as well as any of the current vendors.
And, you know, as board members, the primary reason why we made sure to go ahead and also approve START as well as Roberts Family Development Center was directly because of community feedback, because so many in the community wanted to make sure that they had the opportunity that their scholars were, they were very happy with the services that they were receiving from START, despite the RFP. And so in light of concerns about how that process went, we felt that because there was such strong community input to make sure that Roberts Family Development Center as well as START would be allowed to continue to be vendors. That's why we approved, that's why we felt so strongly about approving them as vendors. So it didn't just come out of nowhere. It wasn't just because. It really came out of community input and really what community parents came to us and said that they really wanted to see them continue to be a part of the Robla family.
And I will add a comment that parent feedback is extremely valuable and accounted for in our expanded learning. It is included into our CQI, our continuous quality improvement, where we extremely highly value this feedback. Our parent input survey we put out has over 100 submissions in 4 different languages. So we are making efforts to get parent feedback as we held our parent feedback night yesterday, and this is all accounted for, and we continue to want to receive feedback.
Can I ask a question for clarification? And I just want to kind of make sure that I understood what you said, that the reason why we don't see START as one of the summer program options is because they cannot apply for ELOP. They only apply for ACES. And if there is clear understanding or distinction or communication from all parties that is the case, and if there was some miscommunication about the summer pieces of it, is there an opportunity to?
There was no miscommunication. I actually met with START. It's actually Sacramento START, you know, their leads, the city, and their decision to submit a proposal for ACES for 180 days during the year, that was their decision because they also receive additional funding or supplemental funding from the city of Sacramento. So we had more than one meeting with them to decide what they were going to do because the conversation was year by year, but we recognize that they applied for the ACES grant, and it is a 3-year grant, so we wanted to honor that they provide the ACES services to complete that 3-year time period.
Does that help clarify things a little bit?
The other question is still like, why was Right at School selected? And like, how far in advance were these decisions made to select these two specific vendors for summer school? That was the other part of my comment. Like, why these two? How far in advance? And I have a comment on the Right at School one that I noticed that they were invited really, they not maybe not invited, but they were present and gave a presentation at a very early January or February 2025 board meeting about doing expanded learning. And so it also seems from an outside perspective like they are also receiving special treatment. And so there are a lot of parents who are trying to play catch up and trying to understand. And it's really difficult when there aren't meeting minutes available for us to go back and look at. We have to watch hours of old YouTube videos to try and see what happened at those board meetings and try and piece it together. So we are kind of working backwards and trying to understand why are these two, specifically these two programs, the ones that were selected for summer school.
So I'll address, Right at School did provide a presentation in January. That was prior to us making a decision that we were going to issue an RFP. Any company, right, or anyone can request to provide a presentation to the board explaining their company and what services that they might be able to offer for Robla School District. So that is correct. I'm not going to comment on preferential treatment. They did request to do a board meeting, and it was honored for a board presentation, and it was honored in January, again, prior to us finding out that we were going to issue an RFP, because we were not informed until February, the ACES shift from Sacramento Start to Robla School District, and the requirements for us when we were going to take, I'm going to say, possession of our ACES grant, right? Part of the RFP had the vendors had to explain their programming. We understand that they were, there was a rubric, and part of it was cost, right? So when you look at the per pupil amount for Right at School, for example, right, compared to some of the other vendors, it was the best value, right, based on following RFP guidelines. Freedom School has been in our district for a long time,
15
right?
years at least.
15 years, right? And as President DeLuz said, you know, I think having Freedom School or Roberts Family Development Center, as well as START, recognizing the feedback from the parents, they are an approved vendor. So when we were having the conversations of who is going to be a provider during the 180-day school days, as well as who would be the provider for our summer program, that is everything is taken into consideration. So the Freedom School is a program that we continue to offer this summer, and I would anticipate Mr. Vakas's summer program survey will determine whether it is something that is valued by our students and families, right? As well as if, you know, the performance of Right at School, you know, again, Right at School would be the program that is similar to what START offered. We will offer a 3-week academic program that will be run by our staff, and then Right at School would provide the extended day care to ensure that we meet the ELOP requirements of a 9-day program. And then they would offer 2 weeks of full day, again, to meet the requirements for a 9-hour day. And to provide clarity, yes, START gets a little bit of supplemental funding because the proposal that they provided to the district to run the ACES program was more than our ACES grant, right? And I felt that it was important for them to be able to run the ACES program for the 180 days. And the way that we had to meet that obligation was to supplement it with ELOP funds. The reporting for ACES will fall under the ACES guidelines, and then the reporting for ELOP programs will fall under E ELOP.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move
Actually, can I make one more comment?
Yes.
I understand the request to have the board consider a postponement, but I will say, in fairness, in all for planning purposes for both programs, right? It is difficult to for staffing and preparation. I know part of the Freedom program is their staff attends training out of state, so. Just wanted to provide that information.
Great. Any additional discussion or debate? Hearing none, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item D, approve 2025-26 expanded learning summer contract right at school.
Building on that, the 25-26 Expand Learning Summer contract with the Right at School further extends the district's summer offerings for another 200 students during the same summer session. Through this partnership, students will receive structured enrichment, academic support, and keep engaged while instructional school days not in session.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, apologies.
So moved.
Been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
So as I understand this, so what this is they're basically so we're going to have, our staff is going to be handling the academic piece during the day, and then during the after-school hours, they'll be providing the after-school enrichment.
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Vakis. I'm just going to jump in here. Yes. So I want to be transparent. Freedom School has their own program. It's a
Right.
6-week program at another site, right? For our academic piece, it will be 3 weeks of a 4-hour programming. Let's just say, for example, 8 to 12 by our staff. And then the Right at School would take over from 12 to 5 or 12 to 5 to ensure that we offer a 9-hour day that is in compliance with E ELOP.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's for over a 3-week period.
No,
3-week
it's
period.
3 weeks. They will do 12 to 5, and then the last 2 weeks it is
Full day.
7 to 5, whatever, 9 hours.
Full day.
Yeah, full day.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I guess the only thought that that I have is that I don't want to be kind of like caught being guilty of the same thing that we kind of were before, and not having the opportunity to hear feedback about the new vendors and the new programs. So I hate to be like, yeah, like, they can, come and do our summer programs, and we haven't gotten feedback on their impact, their effectiveness. Do the families like them? Do they not like them? Because I feel like I got kind of like caught in the same thing, like approving the vendors, and then there was like later where families were like, or community members were like, it's terrible, we don't like that. And so I just want to, I guess I would feel more comfortable if there was an opportunity to know a little bit more about how the programs are doing. Like, are people really opposed to these after-school programs? Is the staff terrible? Are the kids being treated poorly? Like, those are things that I don't necessarily know, because I don't have any experience with these programs. And I know at some point we're going to hear, yes, at some point we're going to hear, feedback about the programs and about their impact.
Yes, understanding that, these programs do take time to kind of settle down, that learning curve from just coming to a new district as well. But I would want to say that in our parent feedback survey we did put out, we did request feedback on current providers and how they are currently doing. And in the English survey, I'll have to follow up on other ones. I want, about over 90%, and we could present in the next board meeting, or if you want to add on top of that. But it was over 90% that everyone felt heard from their current program, and they would change nothing about it. And that goes for every single program currently in the district.
And Right at School is currently operating in our district.
Yes, correct.
I guess my question, I don't know about a question or a comment. I would understand that, especially, if we're looking for something to supplement, because I know that it was a bit of a challenge when we ended with the 3 weeks, and there were a lot of students, a lot of scholars who wound up having to go over to the Roberts Family Development Center. I think that didn't happen last year. Just in terms of there not being as many options after the 3-week period is my point.
No, I will own the communication of how we did registration could have been confusing. Because what we did was we offered 3 weeks academic if they just wanted academic. And then if they wanted an after-school program, there was a choice. And then they had to register for that. And then after the 3-week program, they had to re-register again.
Okay.
We're going to fix that.
Okay.
And the challenge that we also have is Robert's family runs for 6 weeks. So what we don't want to repeat is that the 1 week that we don't offer because we are in preparation and it gives our teachers a break, that they don't go to Freedom School for a week and then come into ours. We don't want to disenfranchise that program. So we are going to do a better job with communicating the choices and not make it so complicated. So we will own that as a learning opportunity.
I just want to make sure that, it's important. I mean, are there any other of our current providers that could have been able, that we could have partnered with, that could have provided the partnership to work with our academic program? That, I mean, and if there are, did we talk to any of them?
So when you say current, you mean the current who are working with right now?
Right.
So it would we're only working with 4 this year. And that's Roberts, Right at School, Stay After School, and START. So Roberts has a Freedom contract. START only applied for ACES. And so it was between Stay After School and Right at School.
And they had as a part of their
Proposal.
some okay.
Right.
So in other words, we're working with a vendor that's been approved for summer, that's submitted for summer, that they could provide those services. Okay. Any additional discussion or debate? Hearing none, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item E, approve 2025-26 expanded learning contract addendum EdTech Enrichment LLC, doing business as Stay After School.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
In addition to the summer programming, the district continues expanded learning efforts throughout the regular school year. The addendum with EdTech LLC, doing business as Stay After School, increases enrollment spots across the district, primarily in our before school program. This reflects the strong demand for such a valuable resource to our families and students prior to the start of the instructional school day. That 45-minute little leverage before being able to get to school, being able to get accommodations for homework if they did not finish, any type of enrichment during the morning as well. It just provides such amazing value to our community.
So no, okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I do have public comment. So Ms. Oliver states, I want to know why this contract is effective and if additional funding was already been provided in advance for the increased enrollment. How were these enrollment numbers determined? Where did they increase? As someone who reads Parent Square frequently, I've not seen any additional advertisement about opportunities to enroll students into before school programs. Additionally, Superintendent Chen visited our parent-teacher club and spoke as if these enrollments were already increased. So I'm curious why this contract is here now when it seems like if an amendment is needed, shouldn't have come months ago. How is this vendor dealing with staffing increase if they haven't received payment since the contract isn't valid until approval? End of comment.
So I am excited that we heard from the families and that we offered for a first time before school care. Transparent-wise, I was very conservative in contracts and assuming that we would only need 20 spots at each of the 5 schools, right? I believe Taylor is almost at 100, right? They're at 80, so they're in the next range. When a contract is approved, like their original contract, they're going to utilize their current approved funding, which is $374,000, right? That they can bill us. That is the amount that is billed, that they are allowed to bill us up until they don't have any approved money, right? It's important that we increase their contract because we did have to increase staffing specifically in the morning. And so this is why it's truly important that we approve an increase, because it would be where if we did not increase their contract, they would not be able to bill us like at the end of this month or for February. So they have been approved to provide before school care and after school programming. And because of the increase in the morning staff specifically, right, their monthly invoices are much higher than anticipated if they stayed within. So they're going to utilize the approved amount. They will not bill us for more than the approved amount until you approve an addendum and increase their contract amount.
Unsure kids is going to the program in the morning.
Yes. A lot of students than anticipated. And I, even in my winter message, says we still have space, right? And I say that because I will task Mr. Vakis if we need more staff to work with our vendors to meet the needs of our families.
I would say this, if this were a traditional for-profit business serving customers and they were a subcontractor, I would say, yeah, you probably shouldn't have been serving more customers than you were contracted with during the time period per month without getting our approval. Understanding that we're not a for-profit business and that we're not a traditional company, ultimately their job is to meet the needs of our scholars. And, you know, the fact that they were doing that, I too would have liked to have seen this come before us earlier, especially knowing that the way in which they're handling it is they're doing the billing, and which basically means that if we were not to approve it, that would mean we wouldn't have, the 20 students who we did approve wouldn't have access for the entire year. So that's a concern for me. I really would have liked to have had the opportunity to approve this earlier. Having said that, I am also, though, glad that they did not turn students away, that they did actually were there and met the needs. I'm inclined to support this, but I really would have liked to have seen this earlier, just for the sake of, you know, once again, the funding for the 20 students at every site right now, it's basically what we're saying is we won't be able to finish out the year if we don't approve this. Yeah. Because they're going to get paid for the work they did, and I don't begrudge them that. It just would have been nice if they got the approval before doing it, or at least somewhere near the beginning of doing it. Any additional comments?
Thank you for that comment.
All right. All right. Any public comments? Seeing none, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item F, approve the 2025-26 service agreement with Vasco Electric, Inc.
Moved.
Been moved and seconded. There you go.
Okay. This service agreement is to establish the physical conduit infrastructure for room 20, 21, 22, and room 31 at Maine Elementary School. At some point, the conduit where life safety services ran, such as fire alarms and network connectivity, fiber optic cables, was damaged. And these classrooms, one is not connected, room 31, and room 20, 21, and 22 are connected via wireless connectivity. So we're looking at having a vendor come in and permanently connect them back to the network, getting rid of things like a Firewatch and the wireless connectivity that we have there. It's a joint project between maintenance and IT.
Any discussion or debate? Hearing none, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item G, approve 2026-2027 service agreement with Red Rover Technologies, LLC. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or debate? Would you like to speak to it real quick?
I would please. Just briefly, my team and I are excited, if this is approved, to have the opportunity to start the implementation process. We did look at 3 vendors that provide these types of services, and on 3 different accounts, this was definitely the top choice of vendors in terms of ease of user access and for the people who would be implementing and doing the behind the scenes, like myself and my team, as well as the employees who will be accessing this program in order to function with different processes in the HR department or with the HR department. It has the better level of data security for employee confidentiality and information. And then in terms of price point, it is competitive with the other 2. So it definitely went out. There's a lot of ease of use for the interface. It will save my team a lot of manual processes, and we will get rid of paper. You'll be happy. Timesheets will no longer be paper. And so the other thing that it'll do, it has a really positive consequence in that we are working to grow our internal substitute database, because this system will function much like Swing or Scoot does. And when an employee is absent and a substitute is required, it will reach out to that substitute, or they can log in on their own into the database and select the assignment and fulfill the assignment. So what that'll do is have that positive consequence of reducing our contracts with those agencies through Swing and Scoot, who charge us much more for a substitute employee than what we can house internally. So in the end, it'll end up saving us money.
Any additional discussion or debate? Hearing none, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item H, approve out-of-state travel request.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion?
Just to remind or give a little bit of context, California School Board Association, in collaboration with the Association of California School Administrators, right, is offering the 5th annual advocacy coast to coast trip. It brings together district and county board superintendents and cabinet level officials from across California traveling to Washington, D.C. so we can meet with our Capitol Hill decision makers and influencers. President DeLuz and I attended it last year. It really was a great experience. I'm prepared. I have my 1 sheet ready for Robla. And one of the things that when we met with our congressman was really to advocate for federal funding specifically for special ed. And I was able to share on this trip that as of April, while Robla's revenue, or how much funding Robla receives for special ed, was $1.8 million, we knew as of April, Robla had already spent $6 million. So ensuring that, or advocating for an increase of special ed funding, is one of the things that we advocate for. So this is a request for us to go back to Washington, D.C. and continue our advocacy.
I'd like to point out that this is just for the superintendent and the board president as well. So it's not the entire board.
And you have your work cut out for you.
Is there any additional discussion or debate? Hearing none, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item 9, board member requests for future agenda items or reports. Trustee Devine.
I'd like to look into the possibility, as our audience member pointed out, the possibility of doing a daycare type thing for board meetings. Maybe have people sign up and say they need like a certain number of spots, so that way we can have more family members come and join us.
Trustee Cardona.
Well, I just want to apologize early when I threw my numbers. I was in rush and I pressed the wrong numbers, but I wasn't crazy. It was just, I was in rush. But no, I don't have nothing else. And thank you.
Trustee Barnes. Trustee Hamilton Stark.
Nothing at this time.
Something in light of our conversation regarding compensation, and I think also in regards to people who may be considering running for the board. And this is probably not something that would be appropriate in the next few months, but sometime maybe hosting like a, Robla School Board Boot Camp for people who are considering, might be open to the idea of running for the school board, maybe have an opportunity to talk about what does being a school board member mean? What goes into school board? What are some of the issues facing school boards, yada, 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 but really open the idea. So if there's anybody out there who's open to the idea, who's interested in running for the board, who just wants to learn a little bit more about what we deal with, it might be something worth doing. Anyway, let's consider that.
Mr. Roberts held something like that over the summer, and I got a chance to participate, and I think it was super helpful for the folks who were in the room to learn a little bit more about my role and what I do and how they can running.
Excellent. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.